Hey, what's up guys? I've got a very exciting Apple news day for you today. So Apple is bringing some absolute heat with the 2020 iPhones, something to really get excited about finally in the iPhone lineup. Also the 2019 iPhones, they're bringing some much needed changes to the iPhone platform, a report by Ming-Chi Kuo. We've got some behind the scenes stuff on AirPower, what actually happens, an exclusive leak with Max Weinbach, some iOS 13 stuff, and more sprinkled in. So just wanted to say thank you guys. A lot of you sent a lot of your old devices, broken stuff, just like I requested, and it's gonna make a great addition at the coffee shop. So I wanted to say thank you. If you guys have anything broken, old, that you don't need, that has an Apple logo on it or Samsung, a lot of people are asking me, should I send this or this? Really anything. I'm gonna make a huge art mural, so send it over. I'll even pay for shipping if you leave your PayPal in there as well. One more thing, there will be a giveaway in this video, unexpectedly. So one pair of the AirPods didn't get claimed. Also, I accidentally ordered an extra set of the wireless charging cases, so I'll be giving that away basically in a few days here. Leave a comment, like this video, and be subscribed to the channel to get a chance to win one of those. Otherwise, let's get right into it, guys. Super exciting stuff today. Wanted to start with this real quick. Beats just announced their new Power Beats Pro. We anticipated these coming, and they're basically AirPods 2 on steroids. They have the H1 chip, so faster pairing, they're water and sweat resistant. No more power button on the actual unit, so it's more intuitive. It has its own wireless charging case. So it's just an all-around great alternative to AirPods for someone that just wants a little bit more gym oriented, I'd say. So we've got some great stuff regarding the 2020 iPhones. Digitimes published a report detailing what's going to be happening next year. And I hate to say this, but I'm a lot more excited for the 2020 iPhones than I am for this year's iPhones. So what we know so far is that Apple will be completely changing the lineup. Apparently, Digitimes is reporting that the screen sizes are changing, all of them, from the smallest to the largest, but in very interesting ways. So what's happening with the smallest device, I'll tentatively call it the iPhone 12 right now, so it's shrinking from a 5.8-inch display to a 5.42-inch display. This means that the overall form factor of the phone will be growing smaller, and this is the year where Apple is rumored to change the overall styling of the phone. So we know that Apple has switched to a 3-year cycle. 2020 would be the cycle where Apple revamps the design or makes it look different. You know, for the purpose of this video, for the concept, we obviously changed it to the new iPad Pro design. That's kind of where I see Apple going with the design elements on their new iPhones, and I gotta say it works. It looks so sleek, and we combine it with a smaller notch up top just to give you a visual. I think it looks absolutely spectacular, and that'll be a real big change for comfort. Right now, I think the iPhones are simply too wide, but with a border like this, you're basically getting extremely slim bezels. The metal border itself isn't protruding as much, and it's just an all-around more comfortable phone to hold, I'd say. So excited for that. All new iPhones in 2020 will be OLED equipped. So that means the iPhone 11R replacements, whatever the 12R, we'll call it that, will have an organic LED display by default. So you'll be getting more for your money even if you're paying a little bit less. You don't want to go for the top end device. This iPhone 12R device would be shrinking from a 6.1-inch display to a 6.06-inch display, so not much change there. Where most of the change happens is on the iPhone 12 Max. Again, I don't know what it'll be called. I'm just calling it the 12 Max for now. But the display would be growing from 6.5 inches to 6.67 inches. And that might sound crazy because the iPhone XS Max right now is absolutely huge. I love it that way, but if you really think about it, with the bezels shrinking, with the borders shrinking, if Apple were to adapt this display to a different design, you would basically feel nothing different from the existing iPhone XS Max. It would still be a very similarly sized device. A little bit larger, yes, but not terrifyingly so. So why is the change happening in size? The way I see it is the iPhone SE that never was the SE2, this is basically taking its spot with the 5.42-inch phone. It's shrinking, becoming more comfortable to hold, so it's embracing that side of people that like the smaller phone somewhat, not a tiny phone, but smaller, obviously, than the Max series. And the Max phone, for the people that like large phones, it's getting even larger, so you're getting a little bit both ways. Apple sees that people really like small phones or they really like large phones, so they're embracing both sides, and I love it. Now, Max Weinbach did comment on this and said that the screen sizes are likely too small. This is most likely wrong. Then again, Digitimes is fairly reputable, so who knows? We'll see come 2020. There's also some new screen technology within the display itself. Apple, thanks to some new technology from Samsung or LG, they're going to be producing these displays, are able to print the touch circuit directly on the encapsulation layer, making the display assembly itself thinner and lowering costs of production. So everything is getting more advanced. Also, while we're on the topic of 2020 iPhones, I wanted to mention that not only are the display sizes likely changing, the housing itself, the design could change, and we're getting some radical changes inside the phone. This will be the first phone, the Apple A14 chip, to support the 5nm architecture. That's just absolutely nuts, but we are getting there, and TSMC is on track to deliver those in 2020. We've also heard that 2020 may be the first year where Apple enters the 5G market with their iPhones, and we don't know if that'll be from their in-house modem team with Intel or if they'll settle their differences with Qualcomm by then. Although today a UBS analyst is casting doubt on 5G from Apple in 2020, even though Verizon today did launch their 5G network in 2 cities, Chicago and Minneapolis, it's very unlikely that Apple will jump straight into 5G until they see the competitors do it and just see how it plays out, much like they did with LTE. And sad news for Apple, they just lost a core developer of the Apple A series chips. Gerald William III oversaw the production of the A7, which was a monumental chip on its own, all the way up to the recent Apple A12X chip. He even worked on the old 3GS chip, oversaw some of that development. It's just sad to see him go, and I really hope this doesn't impact any of the chips going forward, but with them being on track for the Apple A13, A14 chips, I really don't see it being a major issue. All right, so moving on to this, Ming-Chi Kuo just published a report regarding 2019 iPhones, giving us some insight into some features coming out with them. First off, he's saying reverse wireless charging will indeed be happening for this year's iPhone. This is already coming from several sources, so we know that one is for sure happening. And of course, Apple's going to want to compete with Samsung's own version of that power share. And he says that in order for this feature to be adapted to the iPhone, Apple had to put in larger batteries inside of the iPhone. And this all ties in likely with the new logic board layout, so that battery is going to be larger. Basically won't be an L shape anymore, just a rectangle more towards the bottom of the phone. He says that the battery capacity will be growing immensely. So for the iPhone XS successor, 20 to 25%. The iPhone XS Max successor, the 11 Max or whatever it's called, will be growing from 10 to 15%, and the iPhone 11R from 0 to 5%. So not much of a change there, but still will be different. Max Weinbach does disagree with these specs. He says the change will not be as drastic, between 9 to 12% for the iPhone 11 Max. The iPhone 11 will just be 6 to 9%, and the iPhone 11R, he doesn't know much about that. So realistically, the milliamp battery content of these batteries will likely be about 3,200 for the iPhone 11 and 3,500 for the iPhone 11 Max. Also, these have yet to be finalized and may change. So you guys hate the lens on the new iPhone 11. It's already been all but confirmed. We've seen so many leaks pointing to that. So we decided to make a version without the lens. This is just with the cutouts for the cameras themselves. Is it any better? Let me know. I'm very curious. Do you guys think this looks any better than with that large robotic looking lens? Either way, I still think that looks better than the Cyclop ones in the middle, something we heard earlier Apple might be doing, but they decided to go with the more squared one. I'm just genuinely curious to see your opinion on that. Another exclusive one with Max Weinbach, in iOS 13, Apple will be redoing the clock application. He doesn't know what, but Apple is reworking the clock application, and all I'm hoping for that one is that they add multiple timers to the stopwatch. Last thing Ming-Chi Kuo mentioned is that 2019 will be a very good sales year for Apple. He's estimating Apple will be shipping between 80 to 82 million units in the first half of the year, and as a total, about 180 to 190 million units. Those are very, very good numbers. So that means Apple's cooking up something very good for the 2019 iPhones. And I'm sure that there's even more that hasn't been leaked that they'll be announcing at the event. I hope that there's some element of surprise left. And I actually wanted to mention AirPower, what happened with it behind the scenes, why it was killed. iFixit did their own write-up and they said eventually it came down to electromagnetic interference. Basically, it created too much of it at the wattage required to charge most devices. The FCC has a very strict guideline for how much electromagnetic interference devices can create, and apparently AirPower was off the charts, and that's eventually what the nail in the coffin was for AirPower. Now, Max Weinbach is saying there were other circumstances as well. First off, the material of AirPower. He says Apple did test out silicon, they tested out leather, and in most cases it would yellow over time because there was simply too much wattage going through it. In some cases, there would even be smoke. A lot of heat being produced, a lot of wattage, especially when charging the Apple Watch. And he said the Apple Watch was most problematic because the coils have to be small enough to accommodate charging the Apple Watch, but once you do, then you have more coils producing more heat, more electromagnetic interference, and if they were to reduce the wattage, then there would be dead zones in the actual AirPower mat. So there were so many things wrong with this thing. It wasn't just the heat being produced, but although that did contribute enormously to canceling it. In fact, the heat was so bad that the Apple chip inside of it would literally get fried and the animations would no longer work on the iPhone side of things. Just crazy. When it comes to design, man, there are so many things to consider. Now, the best takeaway from all of this is that Apple isn't entirely giving up on the wireless charger game. They might actually be producing a third-party endorsed wireless charger with Belkin like they've done in the past, and could, and this is a theory, could possibly use all those animations that they used for AirPower on that exclusive third-party mat. I would love to see something like that. It doesn't need to charge a million devices at once. It just needs to charge my iPhone very well with a very cool software touch. That's all I ask. And by the way, I wanted to mention that I absolutely love what developers are doing with the leftover AirPower interface. Developer Rambo has concocted his own experiments with it. Meanwhile, Jailbreak developers have committed to making tweaks based off of the AirPower interface, and I love it. Also, a theory from Max Weinbach is, could Apple or should Apple combine the AirPower interface with the reverse wireless charging? That could be interesting on its own. All right, guys, there it is. The 2020 iPhones are the ones to really get excited about, but even this year's release have a lot of advancements that I'm excited to try out in my personal iPhone. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for the next one.